Geek Out!
You know what I was thinking about today on the way over here?
The Chamber of Secrets.
Yes. That shit. When we did that episode a while ago, not before Geek Out, on Cinema Circus, about our three favorite DC characters and our three favorite Marvel characters, and I'm in about how, like, the DC is pretty much the same for the most part. I would switch. It's not that, like, I don't like these characters anymore. I've been reading, like, say, Hawkman more than Green Arrow, so I'd switch that out. But I was like, Marvel, those three are completely different than they used to be. Like, I haven't read Spider-Man in years.
Don't
You know what I mean?
say that to Ken.
Yeah.
Whatever.
When did I read Spider-Man last? No, wait, I still read
You're
Spider-Man.
still reading, you're reading the slot stuff, right?
I read Spider-Man last at Superior Spider-Man #1.
Oh.
That was the last Spider-Man that I remember reading. I might be an idiot and forgetting that I read some random stuff here and there.
That would be 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read a little bit more after that.
I read it potentially the week before it came out because that was while I was working at Midtown Comics, so we got everything Friday.
There you have it. By the way, this is another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
Let's just go ahead and keep all that shit
That was
in.
a really good start point.
I think that was good.
Yeah, good job, Jake.
Good. Well done.
Shut the fuck up.
You know, speaking of start points, we have an interview with, we had Jason Latour on at the beginning of the year talking about about loose ends, and now we have his artistic partner in crime, Chris Brunner, doing he's talking about the entire collection of loose ends, which is out in comic book stores everywhere, Wednesday, July 5th. You can also catch his work in the latest issue of Southern Bastards. I believe it's issue number 17, which should be out the week after this thing posts, which would be the 28th, because math. No, yes, right, cool. But anyway, here's Chris Brunner. Joining us this week, we have Chris Brunner. His his miniseries Loose Ends is collected finally. For the first that series had been out for years, and now it's finally complete, out in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, July 5th. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks.
So let's get the big question out of the way first. How does it feel to finally have this thing put to bed?
It is a huge weight off my shoulders. I lived with this one for a really long time. It was something that even anytime I saw my grandma, she would still say, like, when is the last issue of Loose Ends coming out? She doesn't even read the comics, It was good to get it finished. Having it out in public is a little different. I kind of feel satisfied once the work is done. Mm-hmm. It feels like a little extraneous to me to then show it to other people, I guess.
Sure.
But it feels pretty great. I have a lot more mental space to play with now. Really, really occupying every little free corner of my brain that I had for years.
Well, you're working on Southern Bastards with Jason, right?
Yeah, I'm sort of the regular. I think my official title is regular fill-in. So I've done one issue that's come out, number 12. Mm-hmm. And I've completed issue 18 a couple months ago, but the schedule got shifted a bit. Jason had some personal issues or events in his life that knocked the schedule out of whack. So I've been done with that for a couple months, and it actually it bottlenecked where the fourth issue of Loose Ends was due within a week of issue 18 of Southern Bastards. So April was bananas for me.
A lot of coffee, not a lot of sleep.
No idea. Yeah.
Just kind of all blurred together. So what's it like working with Jason? Because obviously, he comes from an artistic background himself. So, what's your kind of collaborative process like?
Loose End was something that he wrote as a screenplay, actually, when he was in school. And this is a long, long time ago, when him and I first started being friends, like 2003 or 4. And it was a script he sent to me just to read that I got excited about, and especially about the possibility of working from a script in that format, where you had room for like a director's kind of voice to it, because the panels weren't called out. It was sort of just dialogue and action, a full scene, and it was, when we decided to do it, it was kind of left up to me as to how to break it up. And eventually he translated it into a more comic book script form, but we always kind of had that understanding at the beginning that dialogue stays the same, action stays the same, but panel descriptions, how long a scene needs to be, if you wanted to, like, I always added a couple pages, so that was pretty free form. Southern Bastards is a lot more tightly scripted. The issues have been 22 pages and 20 pages, I believe. Mm-hmm. So there isn't nearly as much room to breathe, and it's sort of, it's his world. Like that, I kind of feel like I'm hired to work, like a director is hired to work on a TV show, you know. Yeah. I adapt my style to the existing template of the book, and that's kind of baked into his scripts too. But he always writes a script, and then we have a conversation, and some things move around. You'll notice we do a lot of pages where there's no dialogue. That's something that we always end up having to talk about, well, if I do this panel, we can get rid of that balloon, things like that.
I remember when we had Jason on the show, you know, in advance of the release of the re-release of the first issue, he was surprised that you made the main antagonist wear like I think it was a Steve Smith jersey. So that was a nice little personal flair. Now, in terms of like stuff like the word balloons, you guys have one of the coolest word balloon designs I think I've ever seen in a comic. Really, and I guess there's not word balloons and things that aren't comic books. Yeah. So so just coolest word balloon, period.
Yes.
With a certain, I'll just go ahead and say it, a Kool-Aid Man. Was that something? Was that kind of an embellishment of yours as well?
Yeah, those are the kind of fun things that we can do because we talk things out more than the written document is really not where we work from, which I think is, my understanding is it's more normal in a mainstream comic there's a written document that's pretty set. I don't know how much artists and writers typically talk, but most everything Jason and I decided to do happened through a conversation. So I would expect that we even talked about the Steve Smith jersey? Mm-hmm. I probably did my research about Charlotte, and that was probably something I wanted to do, but I would bet I had to ask him whose jersey it should be.
Right.
Yeah, we talked things out pretty thoroughly. Kool-Aid Man, I think the fun thing about Loose Ends was that I knew between him and Rico, we were going to control everything. There wasn't going to be any production people or editors involved. So that really opens the door to tweak kind of everything. And the style of that book is really just adapting the style to each specific scene or even panel. Styles change all the time. So with the word balloons, I placed the word balloons mm-hmm. and he would letter over those. So, we felt free to throw each other as many curveballs as possible. I love that we get to do a Kool-Aid Man. Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, I was just like, this is that's in issue 2. I was just like, this is the book. This is the winner. We had spent a bit talking about, your process working with Jason, but I think another thing that really needs to be lauded and, that we should kind of shine a light on, you really work well with Rico too. I mean, your pencils, his colors, they really pop in this entire, across all 4 issues. Was that something that you had mentioned talking with Jason quite regularly. Do you talk to Rico quite a bit as well?
Yeah, we were buddies before we ever started working together. I always work at night, and at the time we started talking, Rico worked the night shift at Kinko, so he was up all night, and Jason as well. And we would all be on instant messenger from midnight till 6 a.m. So yeah, we talked for a long time, and a lot of what the book is, it grew out of conversations that we had, probably more like how you guys talk on this podcast of, wouldn't it be great if? It would be so cool if somebody could do this or that. So, the first issue of Loose Ends has that scene that's almost all red. Rico and I had been talking about wanting to do that forever out of I think there was like a Silver Sun Pickups video that was all red. And then we started talking about all these scenes in movies that do that. And that was the thing we had wanted to do for like years. And then when we started working together professionally on, we did some Legends of the Dark Knight covers. Those went pretty good because that era is Mark Schiarello. He's an artist and he let us try some we made some atypical choices, but generally him and I working together, the editors always say like, why did you use pink? There were always kind of like left field things that we wanted to do that we weren't allowed to do. So Loose Ends was like the Toys R Us shopping spree that kids used to get to do on Nickelodeon. You remember there would be like a sweepstakes for that? Mm-hmm. And he'd just run through the store in a minute and grab as much shit as he wanted. That's what it was for us. Like all these things that we wanted to do that you don't really have the authority to do as a freelancer. As a freelancer, you're there to service the client and perform for them, you know, whereas this is a book that we got to please ourselves. So yeah, there were a million things Rico and I had wanted to do. The amount of color holds, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but that's like where the line work gets turned to a color. Mm-hmm. And so there's whole pages where there's almost no black line work. Almost everything's in color. These are the kind of things you can't really do when you're just hired for a gig.
And it kind of makes the whole thing feel a lot more, you know, surreal. I think that, you know, you've got a lot of that with the flashbacks in the book and everything. As an aside, on those supermarket sweep type shows,
yeah,
did you ever think because I know I did you ever think you could do better than the kids that couldn't seem to figure their way out through a fucking supermarket?
Yeah, I didn't think they had any strategy in place. I thought there were certain zones you had to hit, and you would see a kid, like a little boy, accidentally run through the Barbie aisle. You're in the wrong place, man. You got 60 seconds here. Like, hit the action figures, look for the bikes, get out.
They never, even on Supermarket Sweep, you think they would like do their due diligence and know where like they have the specials. No,
I think it's one of those things where it all comes rushing in at once, and they're out of their fucking mind, and they have, you know, it's like when someone's like, "Hey, name your favorite top 5 favorite albums," and you're like, "Oh shit,
what's an album?"
Katy Perry, One of the Boys. You know, like you can't think of anything, and so you just spew out whatever you can think of. So and then the next day you were like, "Oh yeah, shit."
Yeah, I think. That's kind of always how I felt whenever I got to go to Chuck E. Cheese. You'd walk in and it would all just hit you at once. Yeah. You didn't know where to start. The cheese days, the ballroom, there's too many things happening.
I always made a beeline for the Ninja Turtles cabinet. That was my go-to. That or if I was lucky enough to go to a Chuck E. Cheese with a Tron cabinet, Tron was getting some play.
Games you could sit in, right?
Oh yeah. It was fantastic. Even though it was just like a Vectrix, it was just like lines, and you're like, all right, well, this is kind of like the movie.
Yeah.
I think that looks like Jeff Bridges.
And then you see a kid get sucked into the cabinet, and you're like, shit.
Like it's de-resed.
Yeah.
So, you know, what are some of your own influences, you know, Chris, working, you know, on the art side?
I'm having the experience right now. That's
Katy Perry, One of the Boys.
Tron.
Comics.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I've been thinking about a lot with all the superhero movies coming out is how many of the comic books, the properties that really shaped me were all creator-owned things. It was like The Rocketeer and The Crow and Ninja Turtles. That was like 5 or 6 years. 5 or 6 years, maybe more, that I was only drawing those things. And it's kind of bananas that they were all like creator-owned works, like really small, self-contained stories. Mm-hmm. And the movies were, for my money, better than. I mean, Superman is a great movie, but.
Mm-hmm. Oh, The Rocketeer, though, that's one of my all-time favorites. I mean, that movie kind of changed the course of my life when I saw it in the movie theaters. It like. That kind of blew everything up, like wide open for me. And the amount of Rocketeer helmets I probably drew on my homework and like binders and textbooks is probably insane.
Yeah, he's a great little. That helmet is such a perfect little doodle to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the poster where he's kind of like flying in profile.
Yeah, like that Art Deco poster. That's awesome.
So those things, directed me to the comics. And then in between, I had a lot of great art teachers, but I did get to go to a cartooning class where there was a kids section and an adult section, and I went to one meeting of the kids section, and the teacher talked to my parents and convinced them to let me go to the grown-ups room. And the grown-ups room, they were looking at like Crumb and like Wally Wood and Love and Rockets, and I saw all that stuff when I was about 13 too. So that's I think that's kind of the lay of the land for my specific influences. I would mention Brian Stelfreeze was a teacher of mine. Andrew Robinson, kind of informally as buddies. Like him and I know each other, and he's one of the first pros that I met. Jason Pearson's work I loved. That's kind of what I was geeking out about in art school. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's too many names to mention. I can go on and on for sure. Kyle Baker. I'm looking at my bookshelf right now.
Just going through Stephen King. Yeah.
Summer reading Stephen King stuff, and he freaked me out.
Yeah. I've been rereading. In all seriousness, I've been rereading the Dark Tower books in preparation for the movie. Even though the trailer, at least that first trailer, does not maybe look like the best thing I've seen. But who knows? Maybe the movie will be better.
Yeah.
We hope. We pray. We cross our fingers.
I didn't read that one. I'm trying to think of who he would have. He was always really specific about who the people were supposed to look like. Like, I think Bruce Springsteen is the lead of The Stand.
Yeah. He was supposed to be the guy, the singer-songwriter that like is in New York when the shit goes down.
Yeah. The ones I got into were It, and then different seasons. And both of those, there was a Stand By Me movie, and then there was an It TV show.
Mm-hmm.
So when I read those, I already had like this cast in mind, picture.
Mm-hmm.
So those were those were really cinematic reads. I got a full movie in my mind when I read that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the It reboot that's coming out in November. The two trailers they released are pretty fantastic.
I always thought that Pennywise. Do you guys read it that he's supposed to look like a regular clown?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like the Tim Curry look kind of overtook any possible difference. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of beholden to that. I mean, it's not beholden to it, but like that's what people know because, like you said, it's this visual thing. But I remember I was doing the audiobook of It, and when they describe him, it's not really. It's a different look. I think he's got like a big tie. Like I don't know. Like yeah, like it's kind of more traditional clown, not the way it looks in I guess in the made for TV movie.
In the new movie, it looks like he's trying to scare you. Looks like he's trying to look scary.
Yeah, like his whole point is scary clown, where this scary thing comes from the fact that he just looks like a normal clown.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great, but that's. Mm-hmm. I don't think that quite fits the intention of that character.
Yeah, it's kind of taken on a whole life of its own with Pennywise.
I'm really bummed that Cary Fukunaga didn't direct this one, though. I loved True Detective and Beast of No Nation, and he was the initial writer-director on it.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember hearing about that.
He was lost. I think his stuff is great. I don't know who this new director is, but I haven't seen anything of this.
Yeah.
Now, with this book, you were mentioning both. There's that all red sequence in issue 1, and of course, red is like the dominant color in Southern Bastards. What is it about that color you think that what draws you to create within that color palette?
I think that was just informed from real life. At the age that I was talking about, this would be like early 20s. It was the first time I was hanging out in bars, and having fun, but also always kind of skeeved out. It's just a really seedy feel, and that red light is a part of it. I think the non-natural lighting is something Rico and I talked about. Something else that we were always looking at was like concert photos.
Mm-hmm.
It would invariably be that like the coolest shot of PJ Harvey on stage would just be totally green or something like that, you know? Mm-hmm. Just all the local colors washed out.
Yeah.
So that was a move that we wanted to do for those reasons. But red works because value-wise, it's completely in the middle. Like it's basically in between the darkest and lightest colors almost exactly. So when you have black line work and then just flat red and then a little highlights, it balances out really well.
Yep.
A lot of the other colors you could pick would tilt towards being overwhelmingly dark or overwhelmingly light. You guys ever listen to Radiolab?
No, I've listened to Radiohead, but I don't think they're scientifically inclined.
That was like a science podcast that they had about how they did an episode about color where they talked about how certain cultures come to color, and cultures discover colors in different order. But one of the first ones is always red, just because it's so primal, blood. That's like one of the first colors you have. Where they talk about, like in the Odyssey, I believe that the color blue is not mentioned once in it, and the theory was they didn't have blue yet. They didn't have a word for blue. Mm. But every culture gets to red like right away. So that specific scene in that issue is really dark and sordid and primal, and I think red was just the most ass-kicking color. Fries your eyes out.
Well, and you guys certainly, swing for the fences when it comes to the Florida sequences, because you're dealing with like neons and that sort of thing, and purples and the darker hues and everything.
Yeah, that's one of the things where Rico is a huge influence. Like when we're talking about cities to set this book in, it's not just when we come across the idea of Miami, it's not just Miami as it is, but it's, this will be Rico's Miami. And his palette fits so perfectly with that. He kind of makes it pop in the same way. I mean, most colorists have a certain palette that they work within. Mm-hmm. They're dealing with all these like pastels and bright colors, and like I said, pink was a color we always wanted to use that always got mixed. So yeah, Miami was I think one of the strengths of working with Jason is that he doesn't just write well, but he pitches to the artist he's working with. Like every page is something like, I know this artist wants to draw this thing. And the colors were the same way. It was, I want to see Rico color a strip club and color Miami, color a club. Like, he sets you up for a home run.
Oh. I mean, and he certainly set you up for just a wide variety of environments. You've got kind of like with the Robin Hood segments, you're channeling The Wire. With the, with Florida, you're kind of channeling the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which I'm aware is in Nevada. You're channeling kind of like The Hurt Locker with the war flashbacks and Friday Night Lights with the college flashbacks. So you really kind of have a multitude of environments and periods to kind of draw from with this one.
Yeah, some of those are the influence was real life influences. A lot of those places are places I've been, but certainly the war stuff is like based on war photography I'd seen. And I think Miami, we thought a lot about Michael Mann movies.
Mm. Oh yeah.
The neon stuff in there. Yeah, but that was just, he knew that's the stuff I like to show off on. As much as I grew up drawing superheroes, by the time I got into my 20s, I was more interested in drawing like crowds and environments and regular stuff, and the fight sequences and guns would actually be like the boring part. I'd love it to never have to draw a gun again. They're no fun, they're super difficult, and it just kind of gets played out after a while. Yeah, certainly like the road trip format of that, where we got to go to a new visually interesting place every few pages, basically. That was one of the things that most got me excited about the book.
Now I have a kind of a random question. I like to go on, especially for like when we're talking to artists. I like to go on. It sounds like I'm stalking you, but I'm not. I went on your Twitter, and I like to go through like different photos and see like work that you've worked on. Now, is that a Rory Gilmore commission that I saw that you drew?
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm like the biggest Gilmore Girls nerd, and I was flipping through, and I didn't see the that he would wrote, Rory Gilmore work in progress yet. I just saw the picture, and I was like, that looks exactly like Alexis Bledel. So that's cool. That's awesome.
The one, it was like an assemblage of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was like for an illustration homework assignment, but I also did draw a straight up Rory Gilmore commission.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm just throwing that out there into the podcast world. That's awesome.
Jake's excited for the potential Gilmore Girls comic book.
Oh yeah, where the hell is that?
Yeah. Oh no, didn't they announce one?
Well, no, they did like a one shot thing. I think with I forgot that it crossed over with something, and I'm blanking now on what it was.
That's not real.
No, they did something somewhere. I don't think I'm making that up. I don't think, but no, I would love to see a Gilmore Girls comic book. I mean, that's the only logical next point for Gilmore Girls after Netflix is comic books.
Not first person shooter.
No.
That's after.
Who would
the
ever
comic.
want to? You never would have harmed Stars Hollow.
You're
That's
defending
insanity.
Stars Hollow.
Who would? No, even the most evil person in the world would not want to fuck with Stars Hollow. That's peace on earth.
There's too much dialogue in that show to be in a comic book.
That's true. That's way true. It'd be a novel.
Just balloons.
Yeah.
Chris Claremont X-Men were just a whole panel of dialogue and a little face at the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. So Chris brought up something. I remember seeing this. Someone drew it. I don't know how, like, if it was released into the world, but there was a Gilmore Girls Murder She Wrote crossover, and Lorelai Gilmore wore a Superman shirt, and that blew my mind. So that was like everything I love about everything was in
what
that.
a random.
Yeah.
That's really how I came to Gilmore Girls. Because I think it came on after Smallville. And I totally made an appointment with myself to watch Smallville, and then I would be procrastinating afterwards, and Gilmore Girls was the next show.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got hooked in it. It was either get back to work or
procrastinate and watch the adventures of Lorelai and Rory.
Yeah, it was a shame of mine for a long time. I'm only maybe a year out of the closet with that show.
It's funny. My way of getting into it was so dumb. I have a sister who's about 9 years younger than me, and so I would like kind of babysit or whatever when my parents were out, and she was obsessed with the show Gilmore Girls. And how stupid I am is because of the alliteration of Gilmore Girls, I thought it was a show like Golden Girls, so I thought it was like just old people on the CW, or I guess WB back then. There's no reason for that. There's no reason for that thinking, but that's what I thought. And it was an episode from season 1 where Rory shows up, and I was like fell head over heels with Rory Gilmore, and I became like the biggest fan ever since. So that's how that's how I accidentally got in the Gilmore Girls. I thought it was something to do with Golden Girls because of alliteration.
Since we've invoked Gilmore Girls, we have to ask him: are you team Jess, Logan, or who's the Dean?
Now, just the way you pose that question tells me that you're a Gilmore Guys listener as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I know I was totally deep in that podcast, too. That's all the way. I do agree with the premise that they started with Dean being an interesting guy and then turned him into a dunderhead to make for a Jess to come in. But, yeah, Team Jess.
Oh yeah, I mean, my problem is like I loved Dean early on because like he was good for Rory, but yeah, he gets written off like horribly. His last episode is almost like a afterthought where he's like, "Watch out for those Gilmore Girls," and then kind of like just disappears working construction. But
there was I think close to the end with him there was a really sad shot where they the camera is like outside the window of his kitchen.
Yeah.
His wife is making him a meal, and she's all excited and a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there still pining after Rory.
Sure. Yeah.
So sad, but it's probably why I can't work on that comic anymore. It took a long time for me to catch on to the fact that I never liked Lorelai, but also Rory's really kind of a crappy person.
She does, like, they really,
especially in the revival.
Yeah, it bummed me out. They really kind of fucked her up. And
Dean is a good guy.
Dean is a good guy. Yeah.
Really highlights. A lot of these people are crappy. Yeah. And I love Emily. She's kind of a star for me, but in real life, I don't like that woman.
I will say, like, I think the best arc on the show is Jess, in my opinion, because he's kind of this, like, they have to bring in, because it's like, I don't know if it was the CW at the time or WB, but they have to bring in, like, the bad boy, leather jacket wearing, he reads poetry stuff, and then he kind of becomes this kind of great character. And I always liked how he kind of pays back Luke, by being a good person. He writes a book, and he's kind of the guy that tries to steer Rory into the right place. And then, I liked his little cameo. He has more than a cameo in the revival, but he's, destined. The whole show is almost like it's all in, like, one big circle, because she's destined to become just like her mother, and he's destined to become kind of like the next Luke. So who knows?
I loved his arc. He really became a person of substance.
Yes, exactly.
And stayed interesting too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dean is a good guy, and so goddamn boring.
Yeah.
He's not a good example of being a good person.
No.
Yeah. Rory's always drawn to the people that are more vivacious, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really wished that came out of her. She didn't. She always kind of stayed a little mousy.
Yeah,
and I thought there was a more kind of assertive, vivacious person there, like that she was going to turn into. And instead, she just turned into a jerk.
Well, I remember Alexis Bledel said something like when she read, and spoilers for Gilmore Girls, but she read about the season 4 finale where, she loses her virginity to Dean, and, Dean's married, and she read that and was kind of like, well, now we're past the point of no return. Like, you can never really go back, and then she kind of, the original ending with her going off to work on the, Barack Obama campaign was interesting. And then it comes back and she's like, doesn't have a job, and she's back with Logan, and has a boyfriend that nobody remembers, and
Paul,
yeah,
I vaguely look like,
yeah, and yeah, and it was weird. I liked it.
Also, just a total left turn. I really liked Paris.
Paris was great. Oh yeah. Well, she tried out for Rory, and it was a kind of a Cliffy Clavin moment where they just made Paris for her, because they're like, we can't not have her on the show. And I'm glad she really stuck around for the whole thing, because she was fascinating and really funny.
I just wish they had something better for them at the end. But Rory and her, I think, both were set up to be real world beaters. You'd expect somebody to be like working, and one of them would be working in the White House.
Yeah, and I thought that's where it was going, especially because, the show ends before Barack Obama is president, and then it comes back and she's not doing any of that. She doesn't have a job, and Paris is working for, like, surrogate mothers.
She was so much more ambitious than that. That's what I loved about it.
That was that was bummed. That bummed me out.
Paris would not have been happy with that choice.
Yeah.
Well,
I did not expect to be talking about this.
We go into interesting...
I had to bring up the Gilmore. Like I said, I saw that commission, and I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard the Jason interview that that we did, but we rant and rave for like 10 minutes about Star Trek: The Next Generation. And he says that they always use the holodeck for like lame stuff when he would use it to like go to like a Kiss concert instead, or like Saved by the Bell World, which, honestly, I would go use the holodeck to go to Saved by the Bell World, see some Kelly Kapowski. But Chris, one question we ask everybody that comes on the show: what are you currently geeking out over?
Oh, in what? I don't know, in what area, I guess.
Oh.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. It's definitely not like my preferred thing, but it's especially the work schedule we talked about that I had for like the last 9 months. Like, I work through Thanksgiving and Christmas, so I've been at my desk for 9 months, and basically podcasts are what keep that going. So I listen to podcast called Criminal I really like. There's one called Snap Judgment that's like storytelling. Everything is either like a true crime podcast or off the cuff storytelling.
Did you listen to S-Town?
Yeah, S-Town got me through the last 10 hours of Loose Ends. Like, that dropped and you could listen to all the episodes at once. Mm-hmm. So that was like at 1 a.m. I was trying to decide, am I going to finish this thing tonight, or am I going to let it go through the rest of the, like, take another day? But then S-Town showed up. And that was incredible. That was one of the best podcast listens I've had in a while.
Had you been a big Serial guy before that?
I liked Serial at the time it was coming out, and that was one of those things that was just fun to talk to other people about. A lot of it rubbed me the wrong way, I guess. I didn't care for the way they portrayed immigrant communities, and I thought the reporter was a little clueless at some point. Like, they were talking to her about, do you think there's any bias against Adnan in the justice system? And she was like, really? You think so? And I just think that was a given. And lady, you've been a reporter for a long time. There were a lot of things like that stuck out to me that I couldn't quite go all the way with it. And it's unfortunate that it had the ending it had, because that is not a satisfying ending at all.
Did you end up doing season 2?
Oh, the Bo Bergdahl one was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did. That one was, I thought, a lot better. I don't remember the resolution to it, though.
They basically are like, it's in God's hands. Kind of like with the first one, where they're just kind of like leave it as it is. They're like, he's facing military trial now, so it's up to you to decide if he deserted, or like if he deserves desertion and everything, or sympathies and all that.
That's kind of the sticky wicket of listening to crime stuff. Like, life may not provide a real ending. And there's one I've been listening to. I'm looking up right now. There's one I've been listening to where the guy follows this murder story for like 9 episodes, and then all of a sudden there's 2 arrests made. But the guy has just done a Kickstarter and got all this funding, and so there's just this dangling thread of like, you've got to come up with 12 other episodes that have been funded where nothing's happening because they're just waiting for a trial to start. And that like had a satisfying ending that just happened way, way too early, and now it's just drifting. I'm trying to find what it is now. It's about a murder. A teacher gets murdered in Asilla, Georgia. Up and Vanished. Up and Vanished. That was a really good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything outside of the podcasting world that you're really vibing on these days?
I just watched a bunch of Master of None. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
A couple episodes after that. I'm really into Fargo. That'll be on tonight. And I have a couple good movie theaters where I live, like within a block away. So, like, I just saw Taxi Driver and Rashomon and the Dolce Vita. Like, I got to go see those all at the theater.
Nice.
And the summer's going to be like a bunch of war movies. I'm going to get to go see Bridge on the River Kwai and Apocalypse Now and shit. Movies is kind of what I get into when I don't have my head stuck in work, really. If you're talking about comics, I got a big stack today, but I haven't worked my way through them yet. I got a bunch of Ed Brubaker. I got a bunch of Empress. I got some old Love and Rockets. Yeah, that's about what's happening right now.
That's cool though. Apocalypse Now is one of my all-timers. I tend to like road movies. It's a mad world. Lawrence of Arabia, they're kind of on the road, at least in the first half. Blues Brothers, I just dig movies like that. I dig the journey. And I guess Loose Ends kind of satisfies that itch too, because we're, they're running from Carolina to Miami. So you got that going as well.
Yeah, you threw out Fear and Loathing. That was totally something that was on my mind. Also, I did just draw Jonathan Winters on the Mad World like 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, he's got his sequence is like the best in the entire film, where it just demolishes the gas station.
I grew up watching that. I talk about movies a lot with my dad, and that's the top of his list. And it's really interesting to argue about movies with somebody who's like I Ching, greatest movie ever, the pinnacle for him. Mad World. He will argue that it's better than The Godfather.
I mean, it's a subjective exercise. I'll give it to him, but damn. Well, okay, this is like the third interview we've had where this has been invoked, but I got to know what's the cinematic pinnacle for you.
That's like a 20-way tie.
Depends on the day.
Yeah, the pinnacle is if I'm stoned, I pretty much want to watch Transformers the animated movie, and I can watch that on loop and never ever get sick of it. It's all just as good as the first time I saw it. So, I mean, I don't know if you're asking what's the best movie or what's your favorite movie, but I think my favorite movie is that.
That movie kind of like freaked the shit out of me as a kid because like so many Autobots fucking eat it in that movie.
Such a bold choice. I mean, it's a greedy choice. Obviously, they just want to sell action figures, but they just killed all the fan favorites.
Well,
and by the end, I totally like Hot Rod and Springer and RC just as much as Optimus Prime and Blaster and Jazz and all that. Yeah. Like, I think they did a really good job with that. I don't know if you call that a bait and switch or whatever, but it's not the movie we thought we were going to go see.
And also, if I remember correctly, for all intents and purposes, that movie was kind of supposed to be like kind of the end of the series, and then they were like, well, let's go ahead and make some more shows, and they switched animation studios, and like the quality went to shit, and they only ended up having like one, maybe two more seasons after that.
Was it good animation before? I mean,
it was better, but
yeah, it was not as bad.
I can't go back and watch those, but now I want to remember those shows looking better than I think they did.
I mean, I believe the movie was the pinnacle of their animation. In my opinion.
Being so heads and tails above the TV show, it's almost fair to compare it. But in your mind, still, I just looked up the Cyclone fight from Robotech. I remember. You guys know this one?
Not as much.
It's like a motorcycle that transforms around you and becomes like an exosuit.
Shit.
Like put into my brain when I was 7. And for whatever reason, like a month ago, I went and found the clip on YouTube, and it was not how I remembered it at all. Which I never looked because the thing in my head was epic, and it was a really piddling little transforming motorcycle.
I don't know if you've seen our regular output, but so we do the book reviews in advance of the in advance of the interviews. And the book review for Loose Ends, I think you'll enjoy, because we become fixated on the fact that you guys refer to a pistol as a goddamned Megatron. And then Chris realizes that Megatron was originally a gun. And it's like, oh, it all makes sense.
Oh, yeah. That was totally on purpose. I think I read that review. I'm embarrassed to say, I totally aren't down with it.
Well, I guess that solves the mystery.
There we go. I was so curious. I was like, I'm pretty sure Megatron was a gun. Originally, they could buy, a Megatron toy that turned into a gun, and then everyone in the world was like, bad idea. And every kid was like, awesome idea.
It's a Nazi gun, too.
Yeah.
Oh, was it a Luger? Oh,
yeah.
my God.
Well, he was a bad guy.
A Walter P. something.
PPK.
But I wasn't allowed to have guns when I was a kid, so that was I fetishized that toy so much. Oh, God, I wanted it. I spent all my time, building guns out of Legos or constructs, and then my parents would take them apart as soon as they found it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I loved that Megatron toy. And it looked like a real gun. The toy looked very real. It didn't have the little red dot on the end or anything.
Yeah, it looked like the gun Cobra used in the movie Cobra with the laser sight on top that was bigger than the gun.
Yeah, crime is the disease, meet the cure.
You wasted a kid, now I'm going to waste you.
Another thing I wasn't allowed. This is an R-rated Stallone movie, I think. I can picture the poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it.
I'm sure Rambo was right out.
Yes, Rambo was right out. I saw a little clip of it at somebody's house where he stitches up his arm or something.
Yeah, he wanted to prove that, or wanted to make sure that it was believable, because that scene, the prosthetics on that's pretty crazy. He's got in one hand he's pumping the fake blood through the fake skin, so when he's stitching it up, it looks real. So one of the things he did is he went to an emergency room with that prosthetic on, and they stitched it up because they thought it was real. So he was I guess that works.
That's similar to the Thomas Jane Punisher movie, where the actress who was stitching up the prosthetic wound accidentally went too far and stitched the wound to Thomas Jane's skin.
Yeah.
And since he's a badass,
yeah,
that's the take that you see in the movie.
That's right. You don't mess with Mickey Mantle, Thomas Jane, Punisher.
Wait, is he the one with... There's so many Punisher movies. Is his the one that has McNulty in it?
No, that's Punisher Warzone with Ray Stevenson.
Yeah, it's the Punisher that came out before that one.
It's the one with Thomas Jane takes on John Travolta.
Yeah, it's the thinking man's Punisher, where he has everyone else kill themselves, and then he goes in the end and bow and arrows and grenades everybody.
Yeah, blows up cars.
Yeah. And it looks like this Punisher skull. And John Travolta's being dragged to his death.
Yeah. And
I enjoy that movie.
Yeah, and Kevin Nash, famous to me as Super Shredder, to other people as a wrestler.
Yeah, Diesel.
Diesel, or Kevin Nash, depending on which
WCW.
He's in that as the Russian, right?
Yeah,
with the striped shirt.
Yes.
Super Shredder and Secret of the Ooze.
That's right.
Yes.
Number 2. Yeah, I was always pissed off as a kid because you always want the Turtles to actually fucking fight Super Shredder.
Yeah.
But all he does is crash a dock or a pier on himself.
Yeah.
After surviving getting trash compacted in the first movie.
Oops.
Yeah. So I was always bummed out by the end of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're gonna get a wrestler to play Super Shredder for all of 5 seconds, at least let him spear somebody. Right? That was one of Diesel's
jackknife
moves,
powerbomb right? Donatello through a.
There you go.
Through the pier.
Yeah, choke slam Michelangelo.
Mm-hmm.
They're all let down once you see the comic and see how gory they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
those movies are a huge disappointment. I'm glad I saw those before I got to the comic, but after the comic, there's no going back to that.
Yeah, I just wish there was more Casey Jones in everything. He's great.
I mean, you got Stephen Amell. I think he wears the mask for all of 5 seconds.
I like Stephen Amell, so I don't want to talk about that.
I really dislike when actors who are cast in one superhero universe get cast in another one.
Yeah.
I think if he was a person of real moral standing,
he would have given Casey Jones to somebody else.
Arrow. I cannot be. Yeah, you have to just be the character that you are and own it fully.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that, Michael Keaton? Can't be the Vulture.
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson's going to be in like New Mutants as somebody else, and that's both. She's two people in the Marvel universe. No, I'm sorry.
I mean, you got Chris Evans as Captain America and the Human Torch,
and Casey Jones.
Oh, that's right, in the CGI flick. Yeah.
So Chris Evans is the worst. And well, then you also got Brolin is
Thanos and
Cable.
Yes, Nathan Summers. Yes.
Andy's Dwight.
Yes, in Sin City 2.
That's right.
With the terrible Clive Owen wig.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah.
I wanted to like Sin City 2 so much.
So did I.
Me too.
That's one of those ones that if I'm tipsy, I like it.
Yeah. I could see that.
Really disengaged. I can even get through Batman versus Superman. I can even like that.
That's like a 2.5 hour commitment, though.
Well, if the director's cut, it's 3.
Yeah, that's a lot of booze.
Yeah. Or pot.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So I can't get through the whole thing, but I mean, they just get a little better. Sin City is just not if you're in your right mind. I want to take this back, though. Chris Evans is so perfect as Captain America.
Oh,
yeah.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
I take it all back. If all these other people are going to do this move just so we can have him as Steve Rogers, that's
and I will say he was pretty good Human Torch.
Yeah. Yeah, he was not the worst part of that cast.
No.
I did not see that one.
Those two.
Yeah, they're terrible. I mean, they're terrible. They're terrible.
Oh, there is no good... the best Fantastic Four movie is The Incredibles. So, if we're being honest. But yeah, so Chris, do you have anything else you want to plug? But while we got you on the show,
just watch out for. I got an issue of Southern Bastards that'll be out in probably a month. Yeah, that's the one. I'm really proud of that one, and I did it. We did that one after I finished Loose Ends, so that's the most recent stuff that I'm excited about.
Cool, man. Well, we're certainly looking forward to it. And again, Loose Ends, collecting all 4 issues, is out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, July 5th, and on Comixology if you're more digitally inclined. Chris, thanks again for coming on the show and, geeking out over Gilmore Girls with us.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for that question. It's fun to get to talk about Gilmore Girls publicly.
Lovely chat with Chris Brunner.
Yeah.
We went deep down that Gilmore Girls rabbit hole.
Yeah. I'm glad we did. It's all. I always look for an excuse to talk about Gilmore Girls.
Mm-hmm. You've kind of got the Luke thing going on right now.
Yeah, dude.
Oh.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the only time I wear a hat backwards.
Blue hat too.
Oh yeah.
I will assume you guys are correct
because
I've never watched.
In high school, that was basically my outfit. Before I even watched Gilmore Girls, was flannel and backwards hats. Not necessarily backwards hats, but hats.
Can confirm, because we went to high school together.
Yeah.
Indeed.
All right.
You've been on a big She-Hulk kick lately.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows like most things in my life, but I purchased a couple things off eBay, and one of them was the Marvel graphic novel number 18. For those of you in the know, Marvel graphic comic number 1 is my favorite Marvel thing ever.
The Death of Captain Marvel.
The Death of Captain Marvel. The greatest representation of death in comic history.
The greatest Captain Marvel story.
The greatest Captain Marvel story is also his death. But I mean, it really is like Jim Starlin, fantastic work. I mean, it has everything. It has the silent panel moments. It has the big splash page moment. It has the quiet moments. Like there's really, really like I wouldn't even say bittersweet, but just a sad moment with Spider-Man Like they have all of them. No, I'm saying like I was gonna say Ghost Rider because they all show up on the ship to say goodbye to Captain Marvel, and Ghost Rider's like in line. It's just this. He's in space as a flaming skull. And he's just in line. But it, like the Thing tries. He doesn't know, so he kind of like tries to joke around about it, and Spider-Man has to leave the room because death has kind of haunted Spider-Man his whole career. Anyway, it's a fantastic book, but that's number 1. Number 18, and I'm sorry, I don't know how many numbers they went up with the Marvel graphic novels, but 18 is the sensational She-Hulk, which is John Byrne, who is John Byrne to She-Hulk is what Frank Miller is to Daredevil. That's the best way to put it. And legendary run. And I was telling the boys, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Shield helicarrier crash in comic history. It's fucking huge. The book's huge too. The book's not a normal comic size. It's like a square. It's big, and it's this massive double page spread. It's really awesome, really well done. I haven't finished it yet. I just had to spoil it for myself and flip to see the crash because it's Byrne in like full action glory, like a lot of detail to it as well. There's some great Nick Fury in the beginning, just being just a hard ass motherfucker, which is always great to see. And I'm in the I think volume 4. I think in terms of volumes, I think Dan Slott did like 7, and I believe he is the longest tenured writer in She-Hulk history. And I'm on volume 4.
I have to say, I'm in the middle of reading Wolverine: Enemy of the State.
Oh, yeah. I read that at Seattle.
That's got
Logan.
a pretty epic Shield helicarrier crash.
Yeah, it does. Well, it's funny. Yeah, I read that after Logan.
None of the helicarriers make it out okay.
No, they don't.
Fuck. Like Winter Soldier blows up 3.
Yeah. That was what I thought of when they were talking about helicarrier crash. I was like, Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
No, Enemy of the State's like...
I guess the one in the first Avengers movie survives.
Yeah.
Thanks to
that's true. Thanks to the team. Thanks to Iron Man just getting fucked up in the propeller. Yeah. That's one of the few times, and I really enjoy that scene where Captain America has like a fucking assault rifle.
Yeah.
And he does have a big dick, but not big as Captain Britain's. But like, he has that great moment where he's like covering. He's like assault rifle. And he looks like like 21st century soldier, fucking
21st century schizoid man.
Captain America, which is cool. Yeah. And then he just throws a man to his death. I'm pretty sure.
He does that all the time.
I like the first Avengers outfit that he has, and it's fortunately it never comes back. Yeah. Like the OG one makes a great return in Winter Soldier, which was a nice touch.
Yeah.
He kind of gets rid of that like stealth, I guess at the time. The
super
stealth,
soldier suit.
Yeah.
Created by Ed Brubaker, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Carlos Pacheco.
He's had some cool digs.
Yeah.
My favorite still being Leather Jacket, like first appearance in the first Avenger.
Very Rocketeer-y.
Yeah. With the helmet and like old school shield.
Yeah. Chris, you saw The Mummy.
I did. The Mummy 2017.
Yeah.
Saw it. I know. I know people are going to be really surprised. I enjoyed it.
It's popcorn.
I had fun. It was a romp. But no, I feel like...
was it hilarious?
No, it was not hilarious. It had its funny moments, but I wouldn't give it the moniker of hilarious. I thought about throwing that in just for funsies just now, but as a journalist.
I will say one person I did not know who was in it that I'm excited is in it is Jake Johnson.
Yes.
From New Girl.
Yes. Funny. So I know him from New Girl as well, where his character's name is Nick.
Yes.
Tom Cruise's character's name is Nick in The Mummy.
Oh, no.
And everybody yells his name while they're saying dialogue to him, as if Tom was like, guys, I forget that you're talking to me, so you need to start and end each of your lines that's directed at me that I need to react to with Nick.
With Nick.
Nick the
Nickelodeon.
The name Nick is said and usually shouted very often in the movie.
Fair.
So that does happen. But
I hear they tailored a lot of the dialogue for overseas audiences because that's where the money is now. So there's a lot of exposition and that sort of thing too.
Yeah.
There was. I heard Russell Crowe is like an exposition machine.
He he's like he is like taking, you know, a bowl of orphan slop and just dishing it out as
You
the
get
exposition.
some more.
Yeah,
Whether you want it or not.
Yeah, and you get. Don't worry, Oliver Twist.
Yeah.
You get more. If I may continue on, but yeah, no, he doles it out. But I'm sure people will say that he's a little over the top, chewing scenery and stuff like that. But to me, that just is like an earmark of an enjoyable movie.
Do you like his Jor-El better, or do you like his spoiler Dr. Jekyll better?
I liked his Dr. Jekyll better.
Okay.
What about his Mr. Hyde?
His Mr. Hyde was pretty fun too. You only see it for one real instance. Like there's during his first bit of monologue, you see him start to change before the big reveal that he's Dr. Jekyll. You see him start to change, and you're like, oh, I think something's going on here. He's a doctor,
Yeah.
But they keep referring to him as Henry. And me being the uncultured swine I am, I don't know that Dr. Jekyll's first name is Henry, so he could be anyone. He could be Sean Spencer's father, for a psych reference. But you see him start to change, and he like injects himself with some super soldier serum to calm the change down and maintain his Dr. Jekyll. And then he uses like a fingerprint scanner to exit his room, and it goes boop. Dr. Jekyll, or Jekyll H, or whatever the fuck it is. Okay. But yeah, no, it's lots of action in it, lots of Tom Cruise running. So I know Jake will be satisfied.
Oh yeah,
long
hair Tom Cruise, correct?
Yeah, scruffy headed, like took Sam's hair that he just got cut off. Tom Cruise,
yes.
And he uses his plane, as you see in the trailer, because apparently
supposedly they did the vomit comet for that 90 times.
Oh.
Also, supposedly the building that falls was a real stunt. That's not CG. I saw behind the scenes of it.
The destruction in
and Jake Johnson's on it with him.
Oh yeah,
like it's not too stunt.
Wow,
man.
that's crazy because in the movie it could have been anyone.
Well, here's the thing, and I heard one of the biggest
like
problems.
you don't see their faces or anything.
Yeah,
like that,
and
so
I'm sure it'll be on like the Blu-ray and behind the scenes stuff, but like or DVD. But I heard one of the problems is that they went to great effects to do practical effects because Tom Cruise loves doing stunts. Yeah. But in the movie, they look like they could just be CG. Yeah. Like they don't spend the time to show you that, oh, look, it's actually this. And so one of the guys I follow, Mr. Sunday Movies, who's also on the...
I will say I'm not surprised by your saying that the building falling was a practical stunt, because I was like, oh, okay, that looks awesome. You know, like it didn't look fake, but yeah, I agree. They didn't like Christopher Nolan it, where they're like, this is real.
Yeah. Like a lot of the information I got from it was from the Mr. Sunday Movies, and he's also part of the Weekly Planet. Yeah. They went into depth about it, and on his YouTube video, they had behind the scene footage of like the building falling, him like jumping through a bus was real.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah,
that's real.
Yeah,
because that looks fake as shit.
Like he jumped, like they have like the green screen for it, but like he jumps like through the bus.
It's actually like a practical thing
practical
that he's
jumping through a bus, like getting thrown
into
into trees. Like you see it. Like I didn't see the bus thing behind the scenes, but supposedly that is. But like.
I could understand them like mocking it up with CGI, kind of like Mad Max.
Sure, yeah.
Like a lot of those stunts, or pretty much all the stunts in Mad Max, are practical.
Yeah,
but they're very safe and they're composited in post-production.
The best one I can remember is my favorite shot of the movie, where Tom Hardy's going up on the pole and he looks and sees the explosion. That doesn't happen in the same
that's
scene.
like 12 different shots composited on top of
the explosion's not happening while he's up there, but
it still looks great.
But because they are actually happened, and it's like you said, composited, it looks great. And for me, is in a movie full of one perfect shots, that's probably my favorite shot of the movie.
It's one perfect gif.
Perfect gif.
They do gifs now. They do GIFs now.
Oh, doo-doo. So
how's Sophia Boutella?
She was very good. Very good.
I don't know why I over-enunciated that.
It's what scared my review away. No, she does a great job. Everyone, I feel like everyone did like a really good job. One of the things that really stood out to me, no offense to Sophia, but going back to Jake Johnson, he was clearly thrown in there for a little bit of comedic effect. He was
great in Jurassic World.
Yeah. But his character, because he was like the first one other than Tom Cruise that I was like, I know him, I like him, you know, I want to see him in the entire movie. And then we already threw up the spoiler warning. He gets bit by a spider right at the beginning, and I was like, and like they start showing him like being, you know, like signs of him being poisoned and stuff like that, and I was like, fuck, this is gonna be like T.J. Miller in whatever Transformers movie he was in.
Oh yeah, he goes out 4, by the way.
Yeah, because I got really excited that T.J. Miller was in that.
He goes out hard in that movie,
he does.
dude.
So at least he earned.
Yeah, he goes out hard.
He earned those 5 minutes in that movie. But then like they fucking pull an American Werewolf in London on his character, and he keeps showing up in like hallucinations that Tom Cruise sees throughout the rest of the movie. And I was like, I dare I say that was the moment that sold me when I realized that they were doing that. I was like, fuck yes, I'm excited for this movie. I want to continue watching it. And like I said, like it was, or like Sam said, you know, popcorn. It's a fun popcorn movie, and like that's all I need in a movie.
Is it long?
It didn't feel terribly. I think it clocks in at like right at 2 hours.
2 hours, okay.
Or yeah, because I went to an 11 o'clock show in the morning, and I was out by 1 o'clock, and that's, you know, or I was definitely out by 1:30, and you know that's with your 20 minutes of trailers. Yeah.
Like I said, I have a blood oath of Tom Cruise, so I have to see it.
I think you will not be disappointed, especially if you go on a cheap day, because I do recognize that people are going to not like this movie. People have already not liked it.
Yeah.
But like,
like I said,
shut off your brain and enjoy the zombies.
I do have to say, if you're going to see it in theaters, get it on it quick, because most theaters are only contractually obligated to show a film for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look how many shows are at Fairfax Corner now.
Yeah.
The answer is like 4.
Yeah, which means by the time this airs, you have like 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah, I plan on like next Wednesday seeing it. Or potentially if they have an like early show, like before work one day. But I saw like, I was disappointed with the second Jack Reacher, which I think is probably the nail in the coffin for it, which is a bummer because I enjoyed the hell out of the first Jack Reacher.
I don't think I've seen the second Jack Reacher.
It's not great. The first Jack Reacher is fun as hell. I love the first Jack Reacher.
I agree.
So much damn fun. Like, it's unapologetically badass with Tom Cruise. Like, most movies would be like, no one's gonna believe that. Doesn't matter. It's just awesome.
Yeah. And I think The Mummy was just like Tom Cruise trying to have some fun with some monsters. Another thing just popped into my head that I got a little chuckle out of me because you remember in at least the first Brendan Fraser movie, Mummy movie,
which I enjoy.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. But
I'll even pop in number 2 every now and then.
I don't remember 2 as much, but
it's
one was
it's the one with The Rock.
The Rock, yeah. But okay, I mean I remember it a little bit.
The one with 15% of The Rock.
Yeah. A Snapchat filter face swap.
I feel like Snapchat probably would have done a better job.
If you watch Junior now, the scene where he has the nightmare scene with all the babies with like the faces, it looks like the Snapchat filter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now the technology is on our phone.
It's creepy.
Anyway.
So the book that they need to pick up. Mm-hmm. That book makes an appearance in this Mummy. Mm-hmm. I've already forgotten her name. The female lead
Rachel
who's
Weisz?
not the Mummy. No. In the new movie, the female lead who's not the Mummy.
Annabelle Wallace
uses it to smack one of Dr. Jekyll's henchmen out of the way, and it's wonderful. It's in Dr. Jekyll's personal library of ghouls and stuff. So I was like, I get that. You see it for like a split second.
I heard there's like Easter eggs to like the other dark universe
there's a whole like the Benicio del Toro collector scene. Or kind of, they walk through a collection of things, and there's like not Swamp Thing, the creature from the Black. I know, right? If only Swamp Thing, creature from the Black Lagoon's hand, a vampire's skull. Mm-hmm. You see this fangs. Those are the only ones that I remember.
I think they
catching,
said that like,
but I feel like there was probably plenty of others if you were sitting there like freeze framing it.
I think they were saying that like Dracula Untold could still be a part of this universe.
Yeah. It was originally supposed to be the thing that kickstarted the universe.
Yeah, but it didn't do well. But if the Mummy, say the Mummy came out and was a huge hit, they probably could get away with tossing. It
could have been Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
How that's sort of part of
and then Mark Ruffalo gets recast instead of Luke Evans.
Yeah.
Is it Luke Evans? Was that who played?
Luke Evans played Dracula.
Yeah, Dracula.
But they were. I will say they were very ambitious because the first shot you see, like not first shot, sorry, but like the first thing you see, Universal Studios logo.
Oh yeah,
and then it spins around and becomes Dark Universe, and I was like, that'd be like Iron Man 1, having Marvel Cinematic Universe plastered across the front, and I was like, right off the bat, I was like,
I mean, like at the end of the day, like I never saw Dracula Untold, but like I'll see the Mummy.
Most people didn't apparently.
Yeah, I'll see the Mummy, but like, I've always wanted to see like not updated. I would have preferred a period piece Invisible Man, but you
get that depth.
Yeah. I mean, I think he'd be good for it.
I
hope they at least make that.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I think Bride of Frankenstein is the next one, for sure.
Interesting. They would just skip on to Bride. That's fine though. I mean, everyone knows Frankenstein. I guess everyone knows the Mummy though too. There's
not
been
as much as
I think the one people know the least would just be the Creature from the Black Lagoon,
which could like potentially be
Clint Eastwood knows it though.
Which like that one could like potentially be the fucking coolest.
Yeah.
Like you can make that a straight up like low cheap Freddy Alvarez horror movie.
Guillermo del Toro is probably like, are they hiring?
Yeah. I mean, that'd be so fucking.
Yeah, because that's his favorite of the Universal.
Oh, it is. Yeah,
I can believe it.
Creatures from the Black Lagoon is a great look.
I was a little sad that at least I didn't notice. Who knows? It might have been part of like these little Easter eggs that they threw in there. But I was a little sad that there was no Van Helsing character that I could spot, because he's supposed to be one of the things that ties all the movies together, or at least to my understanding, like he's one of the common threads that pops up in multiple ones.
I like Anthony Hopkins. He's my favorite. Van Helsing.
Oh, he was a great Van Helsing.
He's my favorite part of the Bram Stoker's Dracula,
which is on sale this month on Vudu.
Is it?
Oh, I own it on DVD.
I don't like
but not Laserdisc.
No, unfortunately.
I don't super love that movie, but like I like
the production design
and like the practical effects are so amazing.
Oh my god, everything
so fucking cool. So fucking
and
cool.
Tom Waits does a great job as Renfield. That's the one where he's Renfield, right? Or is that?
I think so. Yeah. And then you've got Carrie Ewells as Quincy Morris.
Yeah.
But Anthony Hopkins is so like he unfortunately comes in. Yeah. Oh yeah. Anthony Hopkins comes in super late to the movie, but he is so fucking fun.
Although, granted, I've read the original book, and he does come in that late in the book.
Super late in the book. Okay. Is he that old in the book?
He's an older man. Yeah.
I don't know about
he's
that
not
old.
He's not Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman.
Although I will say, surprise, surprise, did enjoy the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie. It was fun.
I was not a fan of that one. I did not like that
That's
movie.
Fine. That is.
I've seen that one.
I saw that in theaters. With,
that is one of those movies that I'm like, I understand exactly why everyone hates this movie, but I still like it. It's like Wild Wild West. Like I was like, I get it.
Came out while I was in high school. It's like 2003.
So early into his Wolverine career. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even think X-Men had come out yet.
Right? No.
1
and 2 would come out, right?
1 and 2, but 2 had just come out.
Okay.
Oh, so it was like paired.
Yeah.
It was like, hey guys,
Kate Beckinsale
X-Men
was in
2?
that, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was pretty good. No, I mean, I remember I probably saw it for her and Hugh Jackman.
Her other foray into the vampire lure.
That's right.
Yes. Truth.
I love the first Underworld, though.
Yeah. They got a new one coming out soon-ish, right?
One?
Or did
no,
they...
that already
came out in January.
Yeah.
January.
It did about as well as that one came and went.
I do love the werewolf effects in those movies. Like those look awesome.
Oh, the
Especially
transformations.
And like they look like they look awesome.
Oh yeah, and I like that they're bipedal.
That's the key. Yeah. Otherwise, get the fuck out. You're just a stupid wolf.
Speaking of transformation effects, I know you saw it. One of my new Laserdiscs that I acquired today, American Werewolf in London.
You got some good ones in there, buddy. You got some good ones in there, buddy.
All I need is like the Howling to get like.
I do love the Howling,
best.
but that transformation takes like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it didn't win any awards.
Well, it's one of those ones where it's just like I remember. She's like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Watch this." And he's like, "It's like 5 minutes of
he's
like
knocking at the
it's
door.
Like, I mean, it's well done, and it's the mom from E.T.
Oh,
is the main actress. The end of that movie, I won't spoil it, but the end of the movie is fucking Bonkerville.
Yeah,
wasting away in Bonkerville.
Speaking of people being in movies,
there's been a couple.
Dumbest segue ever. I was listening to an episode of I Was There Too today.
I need to listen to that.
It's a pretty good podcast. They were interviewing, or he was interviewing, because it's just Matt Gorley. I know how much you love Matt Gorley, Sam.
No, it's Myra that I'm not.
Oh, that's right. I knew it was one of the Matts. Yeah. They're both on the James Bond podcast. And speaking of Bond, the gentleman who played the stormtrooper in Star Wars, who is the These Aren't the Droids You're Looking For stormtrooper, also in now that I'm saying it, I've forgotten which one, but he's in one of the Roger Moore Bond movies. The one with the one with the submarine and
oh shit,
nobody does it better.
The Spy Who Loved
Me.
Me.
My favorite.
Yeah,
that's the one.
I think so. I think that's the one.
If it's got a sub.
I don't know. He talked about being on a sub.
Or is it a sub in space and the sub is a rocket ship and you're talking about?
I don't know. He said he's in a scene where he's trying to defuse a bomb and then they have to, and he's part of like the bomb defusal unit on their ship.
That's the Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay.
Because like they have whole big like.
And then they had to deter to James Bond because he's that much better.
Yeah, they have a great like shootout on like the ship, and they all have to blow open the door, and Bond's like hanging on a bomb, and like and he's in his like commander uniform.
I think
he's in his commander uniform.
I thought that was a cute.
That's cool. I didn't know that. So he's the guy that says these are not the
he doesn't say
it.
It's overdubbed by someone else, but he is that actor who he's the David Prowse of that scene.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. But he's okay with being overdubbed by someone else because I think.
Is he?
Well, so he's actually now to just go on a rant about this guy, Anthony Forrest. Forrest, sorry, not forced, if I may. Sure. He originally was hired to play Fixer, who is, if you don't know who that is in the Star Wars movie, that's fine because it's a deleted scene. He runs Tashi Station.
Oh.
Yeah. According to legend, Sir Alec Guinness requested that a proper actor, not just some daily extra, who is what they were using for like the Sand Troopers and stuff like that. He asked for a proper actor to act alongside during that exchange.
Because there's dialogue.
So George Lucas just goes up to Anthony Forrest and is like, "Hey, can you do this real quick? You're just going to throw on, the helmet, the suit, and, do the scene. It's going to take like a day or whatever." And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So that's fun. And then apparently he also, years before, when he was still in high school, snuck into the Beatle, John Lennon and Yoko Ono's sit in for peace or whatever when they're in the bed.
The bed in.
Yeah, he was able to sneak into that, feigning that he was part of press while he was still in high school.
Bagism.
Yeah. Everyone is talking about bagism, ragism, tag. That might be the first episode of that show then. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It came out a couple months ago, maybe at the end of the year last year.
I will say just real quick, a podcast that I've been listening to that's super fucking informative and awesome is the Johnny Carson podcast, where I can't remember the guy's name, which is terrible, but he basically gets on all these old guests, famous celebrities, writers, people who worked on the show, and they just talk about Johnny Carson for like an hour. Like Tom Brokaw was the most recent guy he had on. He had on, I think it was like the 100th episode or something, or one of the big anniversary episodes. He had on Dick Cavett, who was a writer on the show, and then of course went on to have a show at the same time. Really informative stuff. I've always been fascinated by like late night, but especially like Johnny Carson.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they have just some fucking great stories that you wouldn't be able to read about anywhere else.
Fun fact about me and Johnny Carson: my mom used to play Johnny Carson to help me fall asleep.
Oh, really?
And to this day, cannot watch an interview without
falling asleep,
without getting drowsy. Even Dana Carvey's impression of him kind of gets me like a little woozy.
Is that how you cure your insomnia?
I think I might. I might try it. See if it works. Get one of those box sets that they're always hawking on TV.
I think we've invoked his name, and Chris has certainly invoked his story multiple times. I think we should kind of, take a moment to remember like Adam West.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild that around this time last year, he was at our local, DC comic book convention, Awesome Con, And, there's certainly a picture floating around of me, my father, and the dynamic duo, which I'm glad exists, especially like a year out because of, and certainly at 88 years, he had lived a good full life.
Yes.
And it's remarkable, like if you think about it, people have shit on his portrayal of the character before, but he really, I think it's kind of come back around.
Well, I'm also glad it came back around before he died.
Yeah,
because
it's not just people faking it just because he's dead.
Yeah.
Like they like within the last couple years, he was getting revered for it.
He got to see that. Yeah,
he got the comic book, the Batman 66 comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the animated movie, which I haven't seen yet, The Return of the Cape Crusader. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the Black Brave and the Bold cartoon was definitely heavily influenced by it.
Yeah, and the Blu-ray release they did of it, like astounding quality of that. And so it's sad. We've all talked about Batman and our favorite performances and favorite movies and favorite stories and artists and all that, and writers and all that kind of stuff. But I think for probably all of us, like I know that before even Michael Keaton, my naps were pretty much timed around episodes of the 66 reruns, where I would wake up at my grandma's house in time to watch the 2 episodes, like the hour rerun of it. That was huge.
Adam West Batman really is my gateway into Batman.
Yeah.
I'm watching him before the Tim Burton movies. I'm watching him before the animated series, before I'm reading the comic books. It's Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
And so, he certainly opened the door for me.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, too, where, like, sure, I enjoyed it as a kid, but I get so much more out of it as an adult now.
Oh, all the innuendo that we
so
missed
fucking
out.
funny. I mean, like, I hadn't watched it in years, and Sam bought the Blu-ray box set, or got the Blu-ray box set for Christmas or birthday or something.
No, I paid for it.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, silly you. And we watched the first episode of The Riddler, and I was like, God damn, this is fucking hilarious. Like, it's not just, funny, goofy stuff. It's like, really, really awesome. And I remember a couple months ago, I bought on Vudu just the Green Hornet episodes, because I just wanted to see the Green Hornet in Blu-ray, because I was hoping one day they'd release the one and only season with Van Williams, who's unfortunately passed away recently, and the Bruce Lee Green Hornet stuff. And it's great because they play off of like Britt Reed and Bruce being like classmates and rivals, and they had that thing. I think in the first season, didn't they have that moment where they're climbing up the roof and the door opens and it's the Green Hornet, and he's like, I don't know if it's Batman or Green Hornet that says it, where he's like, they're fighting crime. I like those guys. Something just kind of like.
Well, they always
silly like that.
They almost always do it after Bruce and Dick are out of the frame.
Yeah.
So it's afterwards, like Britt and Kato look up and they're like, ha ha.
Yeah, like I like their style. Note to self. And that's a huge crossover.
Fighting next season.
Yeah, I mean you get the freaking Batmobile and the Black Beauty, and it's great.
I'm gonna watch that fucking episode when I get home.
It's fucking great, man. And it's sad that the only one of those 4 left is Burt Ward now, which is
I mean, he's by far the youngest.
Yeah, I know, but still, we lost
a Bond and
a Bond and
I almost said a Beetle.
Batman.
Oh.
Yeah, slap yourself, you bastard!
Get that fool idea out of my head.
You take that out of the universe.
Yeah.
Bad juju out.
But so I mean, and of course, other things like Family Guy was so fucking hilarious on Family Guy.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I mean, I saw it at work, and I saw somebody post it, and I wanted to believe it was just a hoax, like some misinformation. And
I was in a hotel in like Orlando. I'm just sitting there, like catching up on emails, and one of the TVs and in the lobby, like original like TV's Batman, Adam West, dead at 88, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So it's it's I don't know. That's just that. It's such a bummer, man. Like you said, especially him and Roger Moore so close.
Yeah. Yeah, the man that could have been Bond and the man that was Bond.
Yeah, I mean, like, and the hours of entertainment that they gave us and still give us,
Yeah, they're from the same era.
And, did they do commentaries for the Batman?
They did. In fact, they actually recorded them years before they finally got all the rights worked out for the.
And Adam West said not to sound morbid, but Adam West said he did that because he was like,
I'm not going to be around.
I'm not going to be around because I want to get these commentaries out, which is such a great thing.
So they have commentaries for the episodes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep.
And wonderful. Like I said, he did that before they ever
cleared it legally.
Because that's the kind of guy Adam West was.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think eventually we're going to clear anyway, so do it.
Yeah.
But Chris, do you want to
just for the sake
of it, because you were honestly one of the first people I thought about.
Yeah.
And I told one of my buddies
you were the only one with a real story.
Yeah, and I told my buddies at work, and one of the guys at work thought that was the funniest story of all time. So please, take us out on that.
All right. So, as Sam said last year, about this time last year, the DC convention AwesomeCon was happening, and Adam West and Burt Ward were two of the special guests, and you were able to buy a VIP pass with your weekend pass that allowed you to get with included in the price, you got an autograph from both Adam West and Burt Ward, and then you got to be in a picture featuring the two of them together. So I did that because I was like, looking back on it, glad I had this mindset. I was like, I don't know how much longer these guys are going to be around. I don't know how many more conventions they're going to be going to. This is my chance. I got this. I bought the Batman 66 Laserdisc with the intent of getting that autograph done because I'm the Laserdisc guy at conventions. It's weird for me to not get a Laserdisc signed.
Also, side note, just a little bit behind the scenes, Batman 66 is the first commentary we ever recorded.
It's true. It's the one with the worst quality audio because I didn't know how to run the DVD player into the soundboard.
We watched it with subtitles on like super low volume. Or did we just watch it on subtitles?
No, super low volume.
Also,
shared a mic.
Well, but also just quality-wise in terms of our own contribution.
It's one of the worst things we ever did.
Oddly enough, the one that Jake and I did the most research on before because
we both say the only research.
We both had IMDb open before we started watching.
At the IHOP, yeah.
We were like, we need to get some factoids to talk about. But so I bought the Burt Ward Adam West VIP badge, got Batman 66 on Laserdisc, went into the line, was able to skip the line because I was VIP, and get up to Adam West's handler because Adam West was the one that I wanted to get signed first. The handler is like, all right, which of these things do you want to get signed? And indicated all the 8x11s or whatever on Adam West's desk. And I was like, oh, no, I have this Laserdisc that I want to get signed. And he was like, all right, it's an extra $20 to have your own thing signed. And I was like, what? What?
Yeah.
Extra? Fine, whatever. At this point, I'm like, whatever. I already, paid the price to get, I bought the VIP pass just to do this, and I bought the Laserdisc just to get it signed. Fine, what's another $20? Give him the 20. And he's like, all right, cool, man. What's your name? And I tell him my name, confirm the spelling is Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
Chris. Yeah, spoilers. My name is Chris. And
my name is Chris.
Chris Rock. Wait. But yeah, so I hand the Laserdisc over to his handler. He's like, cool, Adam will get to you once he's done with this guy. He hands Adam West my Laserdisc and whispers in his ear, hey, this is for Chris, CHRS. And Adam West is like, cool. Starts signing it and starts making small talk with me about how I'm enjoying the convention. We're shooting the shit, and I'm like, oh, cool, this is cool. He's not just, here you go.
Yeah.
And then
did he say anything about the Laserdisc, or he's just like,
no,
oh, it's another Batman thing?
I don't recall him like saying anything beyond like, oh, you don't see this very often.
Yeah.
But like we didn't get into a conversation.
It wasn't like
about
Ray
Laserdisc.
Park.
Yeah, or Phil Lamar. Those are Ray Park
really?
and Phil
Phil
Lamar are my two favorite Laserdisc stories, and I can tell those later.
Yeah.
But so after he's done with that, after he signs it, kapow, Adam West. I think it says something like that. But he hands it back to me and goes to shake my hand. He's like, okay, enjoy the rest of your con, Charles. And I stop. I freeze.
This for a story for a year, funny. And every time it's like, oh.
I freeze, and I'm like, did this man just call me Charles?
You just said, thanks, Alan.
And I look down at the Laserdisc, and it's and they're written in Sharpie.
Yeah.
Charles.
Oh, it's so
Kapow, Adam West, or whatever. You know?
That is the best. Like, that's better than being like, I got my picture taken and we talked about Batman for an hour. No, because I ran into you. Not by chance. I mean, I think we were going to meet up at least to hang out for a minute.
Yeah, we all
but we ran into each other a couple minutes early.
Right after that happened. And I remember I saw you because obviously you're a tall man. My dad and I were walking around because Carl Urban was around there, as was Ray Park and David Prowse, the three people I wanted to really meet and get some signed or pictures or whatever. And as I'm walking up, I see you there. I'm like, oh, it's Chris. And you're looking around and you look dazed.
Yeah.
And I remember I walked up and you're like, I don't know.
For anyone who's been watching the new Twin Peaks, I looked like Dougie Cooper. For those of you that aren't watching Twin Peaks, that means I was looking around like I was lost and I have no idea what's going on.
And you were like, I don't know who I am anymore. Yeah. And then you told us the story.
I was like, I'm Charles now.
Yeah. And I was like, holy shit.
Yes, Father, I shall become a Charles.
As a quick aside, I then got into Burt Ward's line to get his autograph, and he didn't even ask me my name because he saw that I had already gotten it signed. He was like, "Cool, Charles, Jiminy Jillikers, Burt Ward." Jiminy Jillikers, not his catchphrase, but whatever.
Yeah, it is now.
Yeah, yeah. If he's not even going to bother to write my name right, his catchphrase is Jiminy Jillikers because he's Fallout Boy.
Yeah,
from The Simpsons.
Yeah, Charles.
Yeah. You're not strong enough, Charles. No, I've been holding off telling that story since hearing the passing because I don't know, some semblance of I don't know, decorum or whatever. But like,
it's so funny.
But yeah,
it's so freaking funny.
It's my main contribution. It's my main eulogy to Adam West, so I'm glad that I got to share it with you guys again.
Yeah, I think it's really just like him being absent-minded in a moment.
Yeah, no,
that's what makes it so funny. Like
at the once I came to terms with it, I was like, you know what? He was at a loud convention. His handler just said it to him, so he heard what he heard. You know, that's why.
Man. He was probably like, "Oh, an easy name to spell."
Yeah,
thank
right.
God.
That's why. That's why you get Post-its at your booth.
I have seen that. Like I've seen.
AwesomeCon usually does a really good job of it, but I think because Adam West and Burt Ward were like, we got this. We have our handlers. We don't need any convention provided people at all.
Yeah.
I think at most they might have had like line wranglers, but a lot of times they'll have like for
Carl
Urban, they had a person.
Multiple.
They had a volunteer from the convention writing your name on a Post-it and then slapping it on whatever you were getting signed.
Multiple. Yeah, I remember. They had a pretty solid operation. All of them.
They had more people for Carl Urban than they had for both Adam West and Burt Ward.
Yeah, because I think Ray Park had just one person.
Yeah,
and David Prowse just had one person. Mm-hmm. And I think the guy who played Boba Fett was there too. Wasn't the guy who played Boba Fett like next to him? I remember there was like 3 Star Wars people in a row, and Ray Park, David Prowse.
I don't think it was Boba Fett. I think it was
somebody related to Boba Fett. I don't know. I just remember seeing Boba Fett stuff, and thinking maybe.
Maybe it was a voice.
Maybe it was a voice. I don't know.
I forget, but I agree that there was
another. I thought there was a Boba Fett related something there.
For anyone interested, the Phil Lamar Laserdisc story.
Yes,
Phil Lamar plays. I forget the character's name, but he's in Pulp Fiction. Marcus.
No, I just shot Marvin in the face. Yeah,
so close.
He's also Samurai Jack.
Yeah, and he was there. He was there because of his voice acting. Futurama, Justice League, Samurai Jack, a whole bunch of other things. But like me, I was like, well, I got a Pulp Fiction Laserdisc, and he's in Pulp Fiction. Mm-hmm. I don't got Samurai Jack on Laserdisc. So I go up and like get him to sign it, and the usual happens where they're like, "Oh shit, a Laserdisc! I ain't never seen one of these," or whatever. I get a lot of, "Wow, I haven't seen one of these in ages," or "I had no idea I was in a movie that was put on Laserdisc."
Yeah.
Ray Park, sadly, was like, "Oh man, after I made this movie, I was like, oh, I was so excited." He was in Star Wars Episode 1. Mm-hmm. For those of you that don't know. But he was like, "Oh, after I made this movie, I really wanted to get a Laserdisc player." And I was like, "Oh, that's unfortunate because they stopped making them." Actually, for me, Ray Ray Park was Sleepy Hollow, the last movie made in the U.S. on Laserdisc.
Yeah, I remember you gave me that information. He's like, I did not know.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's probably why you weren't able to buy a Laserdisc player with your money after making Sleepy Hollow. And then he misspelled lose on my, because it
you
says,
had a 2 for that day, man.
Yeah, don't loose your head. But then Phil Lamar, so I take up my Pulp Fiction Laserdisc to him, and we start laughing, and he talks about how fondly remembering Laserdiscs, which is cool. Mm-hmm. And I talk about how I collect Laserdiscs and how he asked me if I think that Laserdiscs are due for a revival, kind of like vinyl is doing right now. And I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like it wouldn't be able to compete with the quality because like Laserdiscs don't have the advantage that vinyl does, where you're like, oh, there's a real like warmth to the audio that you get in vinyl that you can't get on a CD or something like that. Laserdisc, there's, as much as I love Laserdiscs, there's nothing special about watching a movie on Laserdisc.
I think it's so funny because like you've devoted your life to it, and you're just like, there's
that was a big deal.
Yeah, you're just like, there's nothing special.
Well, it's nostalgia for me. That's all it is, and I acknowledge that. But
it's so great.
Yeah, no, but I can watch.
That's the equivalent of like William Shatner when he was like on the SNL skit with Star Trek.
It's a show.
Yeah, get a life.
The only thing, and I will say this, Star Wars is the only thing worth going out of your way with Laserdiscs, because it's because if you're one of the diehard fans that hates the special editions, the perfect way to watch it without it being a editing hack job, which is not to say he doesn't do a good job, but Harmy's despecialized edition, he did a great job. But that's not the actual movie. That's a whole bunch of composited pieces thrown together. If you want to watch it in its original, the way God intended it, Laserdiscs are the only way that it's preserved properly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Which is also the thing that kickstarts a lot of people's Laserdisc collections. It's what did it for me. And then like the nostalgia of like, oh man, I grew up watching these. Anyway, that's a big tangent to go back to Phil Lamar saying or asking me that, and I was like, no, I don't think it's ever going to happen. The only person that I think could do it is, oddly enough, Quentin Tarantino. And for a while there, I thought that the Hateful Eight Roadshow edition, he was going to find a way to be like, the only way you can see the full-length Roadshow edition is by watching the 5-disc long Laserdisc version of it. And he was like, I'd be down for that. And I was like, I would too. I'd buy it in a heartbeat. Yeah.
You still have his number?
You need to tell him.
He's like, come out, Quentin. And he comes out. He's like, what's up, man?
Yeah.
Quentin.
Well, all right.
Yeah, all right. All right.
Great idea.
Great.
Can we put more feet in it?
But yeah, so thanks for the memories, Adam and Phil and Ray and Bert.
And David.
But mostly
and Carl.
Adam.
Yeah,
mostly Carl.
No, I said and Carl. No, Carl.
Yeah. And I guess at the time this thing posts, the latest Awesome Con will have been through. So we'll have a whole host of stories. Really, just I'm the only one going.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to a wedding with friend of the show, Nicole.
Yes. So we'll have a whole host of stories for you next week. This has been another Geek Out. This has been another episode of Catching Up, which is a Geek Out podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
You mean Charles, by the way.
Oh, I'm Charles.
And I'm Charles.
Yeah. Thanks again to Chris Brunner for coming on the show. Again, Loose Ends gets collected by Image Comics, out everywhere in comic book stores and on Comixology on Wednesday, July 5th. Fried chicken.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Good night, Eric. Adam West.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.